It is live. Well, welcome everybody to Season 5, Episode 1 of Specfic Media Presents Beyond the Wall.
Yay!
Tonight we're discussing the Season 5 premiere of Game of Thrones titled The Wars to Come. I'm Chooch. As always, I'm joined by Christiana.
Hello.
And Nuchtchas.
Hello.
Unfortunately, Viv isn't with us. She's on her way back from Dorne. She's going to give her a special report. I heard she was... What did she say? I blew it.
Was she bitten by a sand
Twitter
snake?
thing. A little bird Twitter joke thing that just got my brain.
Well,
I was going to ask if we have overall opinions of the show, but we kind of did our reaction thing recording, so...
Well, that's okay. Not everybody will have necessarily seen that, and I don't think it hurts to reiterate. Besides, now it's sunk in. We've had a couple of days that's not immediate, right?
Yes. Good point.
My opinion is about the same, is what it was.
Yeah, mine too.
As I said then, as I still feel now, it's not a plot-heavy episode, right? I think as this show has often done sometimes, is the premiere is really just kind of reminding everybody, okay, so here's who we're dealing with, and here's what they're up to now, and just kind of getting the pieces on the board and everything set up. But I think also, just compared to previous season premieres, I think even less happened in this one, plot-wise, than any of the other season premieres, really, I think. Really only Jon Snow's storyline had any actual plot motion. Everything else was just really, here's where this person is now, and here's them talking about how they feel about that.
Yeah.
I'm not really complaining, but
No.
an observation.
Usually they seem to, the series finales are really, the finale, or like the penultimate episode is super duper action, and then you got like mini denouement, 1 hour, wrap things up. So you can jump into more action, and last season we just left with a bang, so
That's true.
now we kind of have to get everybody gather their wits and see where we're at, which works great for a new season, especially if you think you have a bunch of new subscribers coming in to try the show out, which they did. They broke their records again.
Oh, did they? I hadn't...
Yeah, according to Variety, the initial airing of the show was watched by 8 million viewers, which is up 17%, or 1.16 million from last year.
Wow. That probably doesn't even include people pirating it.
Yes. Right. Which we mentioned on the last show, there were 100,000 downloads of the first 4 episodes because somebody leaked them ahead of time before it even aired, which is massive.
Well, that was 100,000 downloads within like 13 hours, so now...
Who knows?
So the 4 episodes is almost certainly because those are the ones that they sent to media for screeners and so on. Oops.
Yeah, it was definitely from a screener DVD. And the people that run Westeros.org, which if you have the World of Ice and Fire book, those are the people that put that together. They said that every year they try to put more into their servers so that they can handle the load on Game of Thrones premiere day, and it crashed again this year. So they keep putting more and more resources, and they just can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon.
Yes.
You have to do the hand motion with it.
And this was the first year that they had the HBO Go, or...
Now
it's something different. The
HBO Now.
Untethered version.
Yes.
I didn't see numbers on how many use that, but I didn't see anything about outages or problems.
Yeah. I didn't have any issues with that, and on top of that, in Canada they passed a law that said that cable providers have to give you access to HBO as long as you have at least a cable connection. So you have to, have like your basic channels through cable, but you don't have to get a package in order to qualify for HBO. So that has made getting HBO a lot cheaper for a bunch of people in Canada too. So that's kind of neat.
Not that I'm complaining exactly, but that seems like a weird law. I mean, how can how do they justify that the government coming in and just telling the private company, yes, you have to sell this particular piece, not in a bundle?
Basically, because it's consumer protection. There's a bit of that up here.
Yeah, well,
limit
okay.
how much
Well, we don't have to.
They probably have a legal
Yeah.
definition of what tier it is. So, like
Yeah.
premium movie channel like Showtime would qualify as well. But
they'll limit how much people can charge for tuition, so they just don't skyrocket. So there are certain. It's a different kind of government. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like a different country.
It's almost like it's a different country. It's so weird.
Well, my only question was just, it seems like something like HBO seems so trivial that to have a law passed for it. Maybe it includes other things too.
Oh
but,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It also they've also made it so that if you want any channels, you don't have to get a package. So like for instance, a lot before, if you wanted like the OLN network, you had to get the sports package. Well, I don't care about the hockey channels. I just want whichever one.
Well, yeah, it's certainly true that cable companies tend towards abusive in that regard of like, well, we know what channel you really want, and so in order to get that one, you have to get all of these others too.
And then you won't complain about the price because we just gave you 20 extra channels.
Right. Until we raise rates again next year.
See, although like my complaint has always not been about that behavior so much as that's just comes part and parcel with the fact that the cable companies have effective monopolies.
Yes.
So that has always struck me as that is the problem, not the various other behaviors. Those would go away if they weren't monopolies and they had to compete.
Agreed. But this is not a cable cast.
Right.
Right. So,
yeah.
one thing I did read on the leak of the 4 episodes, they were in standard definition. Maybe that makes all the difference.
Well,
incidentally, the premiere, season 1 premiere in 2011 had 2.2 million viewers. So popping up to 8 million is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing still. I mean, this is not new exactly, but I'm just still always a little bit suspicious is the wrong word, but when stuff that I've always liked starts getting real mainstream success, it always makes me feel a little bit like, wait a minute, is this some kind of trick?
Right.
But I feel largely the same way with how popular superhero movies and TV shows are getting. Not that I'm complaining, but it also just feels like, did I die or something? What's going on?
You enjoy it while it
Am I in
lasts.
the Matrix?
Take it away.
Yeah.
Fits and cycles.
Yes, but it's also not a superhero cast. So,
This episode, we title sequence had a change.
yeah, Winterfell.
No more smoke.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't
right.
tell quite if it was the same grandeur or if things were the spires were.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be
Smaller.
interesting to compare it against how it looked in the season 1 and season 2 credits. I'm not really sure. Like, my gut was telling me that it was not quite the same. Like, they didn't just go back to the way it looked before. But certainly no longer burning.
And I thought I saw that some of the little cranks were broken off. But
Yeah,
more
and-
importantly, it had a flayed man emblem.
Certainly,
Right.
that's the most significant change. So that's one of those weird things where, on the one hand, we like Winterfell, we don't want it to be burnt down anymore, but it's also now being occupied by jerks.
Traitorous jerks.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of what makes them jerks.
And creepy McFucko.
Yeah.
Our first scene, we jump into a flashback that we didn't know
Yeah.
was going to be a flashback, and I certainly didn't know it was a flashback until they started talking.
I knew. I mean, I knew only in the context of one of the rare little bits and pieces of spoilery things that I had heard was that someone had been cast as young Cersei, and so I said, "Oh, well, I know exactly what that's going to be." And so I didn't necessarily know it was going to be the opening of the episode, but
Yes. As they were going through the woods, I was thinking to myself, is this the prophecy, or is this something from when we learn about Theon? It's just two no-name people in the woods, and I'm like, which scene is this? And then I was like, oh, okay, it's Cersei, which is
I
neat.
thought for sure it was Marcella over in Dorne with a friend, and then they started talking, and the blonde one's saying, "But my dad,"
Mm-hmm.
and this doesn't make any sense. And as they're still talking, and the witch, and it finally clicked when she was talking about having kids, but I was very confused for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went back and I looked at the prophecy chapter again, between Sunday and now, and one of the things that I noticed is, like I knew in the book Maggie was old, and here she's kind of pretty, and I knew that there were more people, but I didn't care about that stuff. But one thing I forgot was that one of Cersei's friends asks if she's going to marry Jaime. And basically she says, no, that's not going to happen, and you're going to die. The other part that is different is that the hag tells her that her little brother will strangle the life from her, which explains part of why she has hated Tyrion all of her life.
Yeah.
That it's not just that her mother died.
Well, a nuance there that may or may not be important depending on whose conspiracy you subscribe to, but the actual word used was Valancourt, which translates to little brother, but given that it's not, like, it's a foreign word being used in the Westerosi prophecy. So it raises the question then, is like, well, Valancourt means little brother, but why would she use that word instead of saying little brother unless it maybe meant something else?
Well, and let's not forget, Cersei actually has two little brothers because she was first out.
Yeah.
Which is how I always took it. And I was like, you are misreading this whole prophecy, which is what happens in myth every time there's a prophecy. They misread it, and their actions end up making the prophecy happen.
Mm-hmm. But again, the thing we always have to remember, and I think we talked about this, is that, that's what this whole series is kind of known for, is setting us up with a nice little primrose path towards fantasy tropedom, only to pull the carpet out from under us and reveal that there's a pit of bamboo spikes beneath us.
Yeah.
Incidentally, we have questions going in the Q&A app, and we have Mike McCauley over there saying, having fun getting used to this new Google format.
Hi, Mike.
All right.
We're hoping that having fun is not sarcastic.
Hopefully it works roughly the same, or looks roughly the same.
So we talked a little bit about the prophecy in the other episode, but I think we could probably, again, maybe not everybody listens to that one, but so what do we? I think we can separate what do we think it means from what might Cersei think it means, right? I mean, obviously the fact that they're showing us the flashback and it's not portrayed as like a dream sequence, it's portrayed as she's thinking about it, right? She's not asleep and then waking up at the end.
Yeah,
I
they
like
popped
that,
to her
actually.
in the carriage, and she was, and it was amazing for getting into her headspace, walking into what she's walking into.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Her morning clothes were great, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. And it was the most amount of clothing I saw on Marjorie.
Well, I think she can tone it down a little when it's a funeral. Actually, it occurs to me I don't remember if we saw her morning get up after Joffrey died.
I don't think we did.
I mean, we saw. I think we didn't see her in like morning get up. We only saw because we didn't see like a big funeral procession thing. It was only just people who are already in the sept, and we saw then Marjorie later going to talk to Olenna. But, yeah. So in any case, though, the prophecy, as stated on the TV show, talks about she'll have 3 children, her husband will have 20, which is pretty straightforward. I think we can gather that part seems to have come true already. But then gold will be their crowns, and gold will be their shrouds. And I think that was all she said in the show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just had a thought, and again, this is pure speculation. What if that means that each of them will be crowned before they die?
See, it also could just be a reference to their hair, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because, of course, that was one of the whole things of, like, the seed is strong that led Ned to conclude, and Jon Arryn before him, that they were the product of incest, was because they all had blonde hair.
And if it had never been discovered that they were illegitimate, this War of the Five Kings never would have happened. Joffrey wouldn't have been poisoned. Huh. Okay. So yeah.
So it's just, obviously, that's one of the things that's sort of classically fun about prophecy in any sort of story, is the idea that it could mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the books, in the show they didn't make a big deal of it, but in the books, Dany also got a prophecy of her own, and she spends a lot of time thinking about, so, okay, they said 3 betrayals, 1 for love, 1 money, so was this one for this or for that, or maybe this one's still coming, and ultimately it kind of adds up to, you will never actually recognize what it meant until afterwards. Maybe not even then.
So this is worthless.
It does creep out little girl versions of mean characters, though.
So I found the conversation Jaime and Cersei have. I thought it was pretty interesting that Jaime's trying to get her to focus on the big picture. Mm-hmm. She just sees murder and blood and revenge.
Yeah.
And it's like, Father built all this for us. It's ours now. And interesting because it brought me back to season 1. I don't remember if it was the first episode or not, where they're talking and Cersei's trying to get him to focus, and he makes it clear he doesn't give a shit about politics or anything.
Yes, when they're standing over Jon Arryn.
Mm-hmm.
That's the opening scene, I think, isn't it?
That's what I was thinking.
Well, after the opening where the White Walkers attack.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think it is after that, yeah.
So it's like a weird, complete turnaround.
Well, and the funny thing is, in the books, it's flipped. Jaime doesn't care about the legacy, and Cersei is there to talk to him about getting him to come on as the Hand of the King and to resume their relationship. And Jaime's just like all distraught. He has been standing over his father for like 8 days or something, and he hasn't let anyone relieve him. Mm-hmm. So.
In the books, there's also the detail of something had apparently gone wrong with the embalming, and Tywin's corpse really stank bad.
I forgot about that. Well, and because of the way he died, it was stinky to begin with. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, that was like the whole thing. It was the indignity of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's texture.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see where they're at, because I think with the the prophecy in her headspace, and given the whole gold will be their crowns, gold will be their shrouds, indicating that they will all die. Certainly one down, so to speak, and then also just with her father dead, like she was rebelling against him because their last meaningful conversation before Tywin was killed was her deciding, you know what, maybe I'm not going to marry Loras after all. So there, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
So, but without him there, she doesn't really have anything to push against. Nothing solid in any case.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got her off balance, I think.
Yeah. Which Loras is really has the same idea. He's like, hey, nobody's here to make her marry me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In their conversation. Which I guess, really, but they rolled in the funeral right after Jaime and them talk. We see Loras fumbling in their next scene at the funeral, trying to describe, console her.
He was a force to be reckoned with.
And a force.
When
it's like I could feel for him. It's hard to really find something nice to say about Tywin Lannister.
It's when the time for reckoning is at hand, people found him forceful and a force. Can I go now? But it's also we also get with him and the blonde man running the brothel in Littlefinger's absence. We actually met when Oberyn enlisted him into his escapades last season. But now he and Loras are a thing, and just as a fun little detail, Loras has a conveniently shaped birthmark that allows us to set up a couple of geographical locations within Dorne that we might visit next time.
Yeah.
That was great sexposition. That was just fantastic. Like it's been a while since we've had some good sexposition, but this was like really good. I really like the birthmark thing.
And
I also like how he's like, yeah, whatever, my birthmark.
So this, of course, was a scene that we never would have gotten in the books because we never had any POV chapters from Loras or from Marjorie.
Yeah.
But this idea that, everybody knows, and so he's not even really being discreet anymore, is interesting, and I think is also another indicator of what's happening now with Tywin gone. He, as many people who hated him, he was this huge stabilizing force that everybody else had to kind of orbit around.
Mm-hmm.
But now with him gone, because Loras has got to be thinking, okay, yeah, they know already, but in theory, I am still supposed to marry Cersei, and so how is this going to look if this starts getting broader play? But I don't know, at this point, maybe he's already kind of figuring that's not really going to happen anymore.
Yeah, from the
he certainly doesn't want to.
Yeah, from the conversation, he's written it off. He's like, there's no way she's going to do it, because he knows she didn't want it anyways. Without Tywin.
Now who's going to make her? Except, of course, we know that the whole reason he was going to force her to do it anyway was because this whole Highgarden alliance is still not super solid.
Yep.
Of course, I think we also know that part of Tywin's motivation there was actually to send Cersei off to Highgarden instead of having her there to keep messing up what his plans were with Joffrey and then Tommen subsequently.
Mm-hmm.
And this also brings in the whole, Marjorie's just, whatever, are you done yet? Like she doesn't care about her brother's exploits, and she obviously knows and is completely okay, which is something that I know a lot of fans speculated about. And we got a bit on that in season 1. I think it was season 2.
It was season 2 that she showed up, with Renly.
That she says, would you like me to bring my brother into Renly?
Yeah.
And all of the fans who were, speculating, does she know or doesn't she? We're like, yes, no, we know, she knows.
Yeah.
So this just kind of reminds us of that yes, she does know what's going on with her brother. She did know about her brother and Loras.
It's been interesting finding out the show's version of what she does know and what she doesn't, because in the books it's very opaque.
Yes, we don't know
what because she is. Anytime we see her, she's always in full-on politician mode, and we don't see any of the behind the scenes there. But certainly in the show, we realize that she is, much more politically astute and much more pragmatic than her public persona would suggest. But she also did not know what her grandmother was planning to do with Joffrey. She was not let in on that plot.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, though, that's going on.
King's Landing. The only other thing I think was Lancel.
Yeah, dude, and as far as another change from the books, in the books when he shows up again at this point, he's described as looking 20 years older.
Yep.
Weak,
white hair,
great hair, yeah, yep. And whereas now
emaciated.
He kind of went the other direction.
Yeah.
I would not have recognized him at all, except that, she said, Lancel, I wouldn't have recognized you, and I'm going, what?
Yeah, me neither. Did they recap him? Like how?
But you can kind of see it in his face, I guess. But just physically, he's changed a lot since season 2 was the last time we saw him, I think.
And she's thinking at first, wow, I should have waited.
Yeah.
You grew up cute.
It's like, oh, but now you're all religious and weird. Damn it. And then, of course, the fact that he seems overly blasé about talking about what he did with Robert.
And saying, I'm a totally different person now. That does not bode well for his future.
I regret that I led you into sin, and I would like you to let me show you the true path now. She's got to be thinking, oh, that could be really bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's also kind of interesting that he takes the blame for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, which I can't help but roll my eyes a little bit, like in an entertained way, but just this idea of it's still kind of a dickish thing for him to do, to sort of imagine that he was the one that had all the power in that situation, and that it could only have been him that would tempt her into this terrible situation.
Well, women don't like sex, remember?
Yeah.
And women don't plot murder. That's not what women do. They're pure and sunlight and blah, blah.
Yeah, so he definitely
saved. That's how he can bring her. So.
Yeah. Right. He is devoutly religious now, but there is definitely a super culty vibe there. Mm-hmm. Walking around in rags and barefoot, and I did like how everyone is kind of looking at him like, dude, put some real clothes on when you're coming to a royal party, dude.
Yeah.
Party, funeral, one of those. It's kind of both, really, right?
Big party for a lot of people.
Yeah. But yeah, so this also kind of sets up the sparrows. They called them the sparrows. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. I thought so. So it sets up that that's a thing.
And they mentioned that Tywin never would have allowed them entrance to the city.
Yeah.
So that shows that Tywin's grip is already gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not just Loras and Marjorie being more relaxed. It's these people that would these religious fanatics would never be allowed into the city if Tywin were alive, and they come into his funeral. So everybody realizes that there's less control going on.
Well, it's exactly what Jaime was trying to tell Cersei. It's like, these people have been, slavering at the gate all this time, wanting us to take us down, and only didn't try because they're scared of Tywin, who is now not here anymore. They already don't like us, but they were afraid of Tywin. Now he's dead.
Yep.
And his killer escaped. The killer who had just been sentenced to death. Nobody knows where he is, and they can't do anything about it. There's just they're not in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, we're broke.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's not forget that.
Well, and in the show, Cersei realizes that Jaime helped Tywin, whereas that's not really said in the book. Tyrion. Dang it. Yeah. Sorry, I always do that. That Jaime helped Tyrion escape, and in the books, she just The eyeball. Oh yes, the eyeball rocks are very creepy, Mike.
Yeah. I'm glad they've. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that they've kept that consistent. Because they introduced it in the first episode, so you kind of gotta keep it going. So in the books, she just blames Varys, and in the show, she knows that he's done this. So that's a different level of complexity, which is probably why she in the show would not want to rekindle their relationship, because how dare you? You let my son's killer go, and he killed our dad.
Well, their whole relationship is completely different now. I mean, because even though as we talked about with last season, the show clearly didn't want that one scene to. They did not intend that to be a depiction of rape, even though obviously. Yeah. So anyway, we've talked about that, but the point is that they're still not on good terms, and yet, they did kind of sort of rekindle their relationship at the end of last season, in a not super healthy way, to the extent that it was ever healthy, but just in the sense of she was now specifically wanting to use that as a weapon against her dad. And manipulating Jamie because she knew he still wanted it, and him feeling like this is probably a terrible idea, but so at the same time in this, at the start here, it seems as though that's not. I don't know. It's not clear if it's still going or if it's what's.
I think him helping Tyrion's got to be the last straw, unless he does something to kill him.
Well, it's the last straw until she needs him again.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to Essos.
Yeah.
We jump to Pentos with Varys and Tyrion.
Yeah. I liked the little the tracking shot of looking through the air hole in the crate and seeing the various things.
Air
like
hole,
the
yeah.
complaint about having to go to the bathroom through a hole.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like to push my shit through a hole? Do you know what it's like to clean up your shit?
See, I feel like Tyrion could have justified another response to that. It's like, oh, right, yeah, they're the same.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I'm like, yeah, because that's the same.
Yeah. Besides, the thing is, it's interesting, too, because in the books, Varys is certainly described as, he is depicted multiple times as being like a master of disguise.
Yeah.
But he also is not apparently in disguise as we see him here. So it's also like, is he not recognizable? People don't recognize him. Why is Tyrion got to be in the crate and Varys can walk around?
Does he do disguises in the show, though? Like, have we seen him in disguise?
No, we haven't. Well, we saw, I think, him...
That.
No, well, okay.
It's a really elaborate Easter egg.
I was trying to remember if there was, like, even the time that he went and visited Ned in the black cells before Ned's execution. I can't remember if he was in disguise there or not.
Yeah, he was in a guard uniform, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only time they've done it, though. But then again, it's also true that we don't see Varys again until they're already at Illyrio's palace.
That's true.
So it's maybe that he had been disguised during the journey, but not, caged back. Yeah. Well, that was kind of a last minute, thing. Just because, it had seemed in that episode like he really had not intended to accompany Tyrion.
Yeah.
Until, of course, he hears the bells going and is like, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, because in
survival instinct, go.
In the books, he doesn't go to the same place as Tyrion, right?
Well, in the books, he just disappears off the face of the map until he shows up again in one chapter at the end of book 5.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. And it's Master Illyrio, who we saw in season 1, that basically has all of Varys's lines.
Yeah, so they're doing it different. So this is diverging from what happened in the books. Yeah. Because Varys, wherever he went, was certainly not accompanying Tyrion in the books.
Well, and I understand the change because, one, we want to keep that actor. And why bring back another actor that is only going to be there for a while, you know? So it makes sense to me.
Well, and it seems like they're likely to condense a lot of that whole plot line, I think, for the show. Mike McCauley says, "You got to admit, it must take great skill to shit through a hole that small." I think it would, although I think technically what Tyrion said is that he had to, I don't know that he necessarily raised his butt up at the hole. He maybe
even putting the pieces through, that's...
Yeah, well, I was actually just thinking about how just the orientation of the holes might make it difficult even to pee through it. You know, even if he can aim, he can't stand up. You know, so
short.
Yeah.
So yeah, this conversation was interesting too. We finally get an inkling of who he may have some allegiance to.
Yeah, what's Varys's deal?
He's Team Dany.
Yeah. You know, or at least that's certainly what he's telling us now. You never know with Varys. It is interesting just because it's so hard to know when the show is diverging from the books. You know what's going on. It's like because there's additional wrinkles to what he's got going on in the books, but it's also like by the time we see him again, there's a lot more stuff that we know about the overall situation than we know at this point in the story. So when we see him now, is that even still in play, or are they just going a whole different direction and he is just, you know, full stop Team Dany? Certainly at this point it doesn't seem obvious why he would have any reason to lie to Tyrion about that. So it seems like that's really the direction that the show is planning to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it jibes with, you know, saying his friend and Pentos that, you know, a long time ago they were going to set to bring the Targaryens, and you know, clearly helped Dany and Viserys get there. And
see, if people don't remember, way back in season 1, when Arya had gone down to look at the dragon skulls and then overheard two people potentially talking about overthrowing the king, bringing the Targaryen girl back, the two people she heard were Varys and Illyrio. Illyrio also being the guy who gifted the dragon eggs to Daenerys way back in episode 1.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's a little interesting. I mean, again, just logistically for making a TV show, we get why they didn't necessarily want to bring the actor back for one scene or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, Illyrio is a guy that we know. He's not just a made-up name. But what do you guys think about Tyrion with the beard? I kind of dug it.
Good. Yeah.
It's like good, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage looks really good with a beard. Then again, that is the first way I ever saw him, nice and cleaned up with a nice beard. And I like beards, so that helps.
So Tyrion had a couple of good bits there. He's clearly despondent, though, and having the whole bit of drinking the wine. The future is shit, just like the past. Then vomiting on the carpet, then refilling his glass.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I kept thinking, you know, he just came out of the box. Varys is already starting up. Can't the boy get a bath? Get a whore, you know, something? It's a tough journey.
Yeah, and I again, it's kind of just the implication of like you drank your way from here, you know, from Westeros to here, and Tyrion's just kind of like, what, that means I should stop now? I don't understand. I don't understand your point.
And then in their second conversation, so they announced they're going to go to meet Dany.
Yeah.
And can I drink myself to death on the road to Marine?
Yeah. Hang on, I got my phone buzzing at me. So yes, a little bit of an inkling that maybe Tyrion can be rousted from his depressive funk.
And it was fair. It was, hey, let's go meet her and see if you think the world is worth saving. So
I like that. Can I drink on the way?
Yeah.
I do like that there is still some of Tyrion's despair over the fact that he killed his father, that he's a kinslayer. His brother's the Kingslayer, he's the kinslayer. I'm still sad that he
despair over that, though. I mean,
It's more despair over Shay.
Really?
I think.
Yeah, that was my impression is that he is certainly aware that people will hate and revile him for what he did. And I think he was more aware of that than he was. Well, but I think it's also true that he's kind of aware, like that idea of I'm not really a lord anymore. Just this idea of pretty much everything that I've ever defined my identity by is gone, except for, of course, being a dwarf, which is like the one part that I didn't especially care for before.
Only now he's broke and no family, and
Yeah, life as a dwarf when you don't have the Lannister name is going to be very different.
Mm-hmm. Of course, at least in this context, how it's playing out now, he does have Varys there, who absolutely does respect him as a man of talent and wisdom, worth bringing along. So he's got that going for him, at least.
yeah, I'm sure Varys has plenty of gold stocked away. He certainly wouldn't have been one to keep all eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't wait to see Tyrion and Varys meet Dany and the conversations. I mean, Tyrion can be so crude, and if she wants to go all princey, queenie, it's going to be fireworks.
So Mike agrees with you. He says he thinks Tyrion's... I'm the only one that thinks he's upset about his dad. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, clearly he's upset because he knew at the end that his dad truly did never care for him, or puts it that way. So,
well, yeah, it's funny. I feel like I could sit here and talk about Tywin all day. He's just such a fascinating character in terms of like what is his deal really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a secret theory that I'm not sure is especially buoyed by any real evidence, but I wondered if perhaps Jaime and well, never mind. That's stuff.
Do you
that
think that Jaime and Cersei are not his?
I wonder.
Okay, there's fan theories out there that one of Tywin's kids, which is really funny because I've even heard arguments that only one of Jaime and Cersei's is not his, and that it is theoretically possible but highly improbable.
Yeah.
That there's theories that one of them is not just not one of his kids, but a Targaryen. There's also theories that there's secret Targaryens everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's that. So
See,
it's not spoilery. It's a very big theory, and I can agree with you on that point because I feel like so often people think Tyrion is the secret Targaryen, that he's not really his, but Tyrion is so much Tywin's son, and I think that it would just be so wrong if he really wasn't.
But nature versus nurture and all that, he clearly doesn't look like him. He's a dwarf. It would make sense why Tywin always hated him if he knew that he wasn't really his and killed his wife.
My thinking was it was actually the reverse, though.
Yeah.
That perhaps Jaime and Cersei were someone else helping out because Tywin couldn't actually get it done.
Oh, I like that idea.
And
that
then
helping.
Only after that did Tyrion show up, an unexpected accident because they thought that Tywin wasn't able to do it. But of course, when Tywin is actually able to do it, that's the result, and that would be sort of this extra despising of Tyrion from Tywin just because that there's some self-loathing in there.
He's his only legitimate heir. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of always wondered about that, but that's
I like that theory.
Rampant speculation.
I love it. I love it. I like that's going to be one of my new theories. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Because it's biblical, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
So at the same time, who knows if that will ever even get addressed again?
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably not.
But in any case, are we done with Tyrion and Daenerys?
Yeah,
I think
goes
so.
to Marine.
So we got Daenerys
Well,
goes
should
down
we
to
start
check.
with the Unsullied?
Yeah, first
Yeah,
they
sure.
tear the harpy down.
Oh yeah, they tear the harpy down, which
Mhm.
they've got all these ropes and stuff on different directions to pull it down, and then it crashes into everything on the way down.
No. I think they always intended it to slide down exactly the way that it did. They put a lot of like logs in place for it to land on and slide.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think all of the ropes were basically to control it from bouncing off and flinging it off in some other direction.
Okay.
That was my read of it, just in terms of the engineering logistics there.
I will take your word for it then.
The Unsullied that goes to the brothel, for a second,
I thought it was Grey Worm.
yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, is that, like, I wondered if it was supposed to be Grey Worm, because I could just, like, he looks different. That's not the same actor, is it? Did they replace Grey Worm? What's going on? And so I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be Grey Worm, but with a different actor, but clearly that was not the answer. It's a different Unsullied.
Yeah.
But I like, too, just the nuance of, you know, in the book, we only hear about what's going on when Dany does, which is just this very removed, hey, this happened. So seeing this moment of, and sort of the human moments of him as the Unsullied White Rat, I think they said was that one, and
It's different in the books, I think.
yeah. Still desiring human contact, even if he's not able to have, you know, full intercourse.
Yes. And in the books, we find out that the reason he went to the brothel was for comfort, because when Missandei asks Grey Worm about it, he explains that's what they're doing. So that's kind of interesting that they changed that.
Yeah, it was curious to me. He was so stone-faced, I couldn't tell if he knew and just doesn't want to share it yet, or if he didn't know truly. And she's clearly, well, obviously she's interested in him and all that.
Well,
but it seems like it was a plea for, I can give you whatever you need, you know.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think what I liked about how it played here is that, first of all, in the book, we needed him to tell her, because how else will we know, the reader, right? So having him tell her is the way that we, the reader, get to hear that that's what's going on, because otherwise we would reasonably be asking the same question she would. But because in the show we got to see it, we now already know what it is, and so I think that I think it adds some nice texture to have Grey Worm wanting to actually hold some of that back a little bit, even from Daenerys.
Well, and I also kind of feel like, you know, she's like, well, I can do whatever you need, and he's thinking, I'm not going to tell you this because I don't want you to feel like you need to. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of out of respect.
Incidentally, Mike McCauley says, I'm unspoiled. Varys' line throughout the show has been all about how all he really cares about is the greater good of King's Landing. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But now I'm starting to wonder what his real intentions are. I think technically what he has said is the realm rather than King's Landing per se. But I think what Varys also admits in this scene is that his plan hasn't been going very well.
Yep.
A string of mistakes, he calls it. Because certainly having Tyrion kill Tywin was not part of the plan.
Right.
Because, of course, his whole goal was to try to keep Westeros ticking along as stably as is reasonably possible, while he tries to manage to get Daenerys to come on over, where she has not been cooperating either, because she starts going and liberating slaves in Astapor and Yunkai and then settling down in Meereen, and Varys has got to be sitting over in King's Landing going, what the fuck?
The dragon grow up.
Yeah, so I just mean, I think that as far as suspecting what is Varys really after, I think at this point it seems plausible that within the context of the show, Varys is being straight with Tyrion at this point.
Ooh, so his buddy is the one who had the eggs.
Yep.
What if they also have some kind of way to control the dragons?
You never know. It's certainly true that Daenerys is not doing it very well, but someone, you see, my working theory all along, again, not necessarily, it's not explicit in the text, but my theory has always been that Daenerys increasingly loses control of the dragons because she's not doing what her destiny is. She's doing the wrong stuff. She's taking them in the wrong direction, which, incidentally, in the books, part of her prophecy is you have to go backwards to go forwards, or something to that effect.
Yep.
And so, just the idea that she's not doing the right thing is being symptomatic in her losing control of her dragons. But of course, that's interpretation of the text, not something that's stated.
I also like Sheriff Bullock's response to being unspoiled. Better to be unspoiled than unsullied.
Very
much.
Although, I don't know, Grey Worm says that he's not mad about it because it led him to meet Daenerys and Missandei and all of that.
That's just great for him. Glad he appreciates it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's some interesting stuff going on there. They introduce now the new dilemma for Daenerys at the moment is the fighting pits. You reopen the fighting pits, and it's a little bit like some of the stuff last time of like some of the slaves actually want to go back and be slaves again. Do you allow them to do that if they want to? And so this is kind of that same sort of thing. Is like you may disapprove of this this thing, but it was slaves before, and now it's people who are free people who want to go and volunteer to do it.
Mm-hmm. And saying you're tearing apart their culture.
Mm-hmm. So it's reasonable, or it's certainly a concern, and of course Dario and his butt are making the case that she should allow it to happen. Dario just continues to be the worst in terms of being bad for Dany, in my opinion. I don't like him at all.
Yes. But his posterior is quite nice.
Yeah. Well, no, I see what she sees in him. But I definitely...
We get the Dario backside and the Dario backstory that he fought in those
I did like that. Mm-hmm. In the books, I find no interest in Dario whatsoever. The way that he's described, he's just slimy and icky. When he's constantly fondling that knife. Here we see him toss it a little. And I'm just so not interested in him. This Dario actor, though,
he's charming.
He's very beautiful.
I think
nicely. Yeah. He is not slimy. And now that I've seen Orphan Black, I'm even more charmed by him.
Yeah, he's nice in that one.
Yeah,
we think.
Really, we think.
Yeah.
But so it's one of these instances where the show, I think, is doing a better job at making sense, but at the same time in the books I always view it like when I look at a lot of times I look at the men my nieces choose, my older nieces choose, and I'm like, you can do so much better. Why are you infatuated with this guy? And that's how I always felt when I was reading Dany. And remember, Dany is a bit younger in the books too, so it's a different dynamic. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I can see her being swayed by this Dario, though.
Yeah. And I think in this case, though, her reaction when he says that is not, really, you think so? It's more like, what?
What is wrong with you?
Yeah. But, yeah, definitely Dario is just one of those things. It's kind of like when you're in a long, dark tunnel and then you see the light of the train, but it's a ways off. So maybe if you keep going, you can get out of the tunnel before it crushes you. Maybe. But I just sort of feel like Dario's, it seems like somehow all that's going to go horribly, horribly wrong at some point.
He's a wild card for sure.
He is, and it's interesting because, you know, I'm thinking about this, and you see this trope a lot, and you see it in relationships too, where a guy makes sensible decisions and, you know, listens to his friends and stuff, and then some girl comes along and starts turning his head.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't often see that with the genders flipped, I don't think. At least not with a character like Daenerys, who has such a good head on their shoulders and such a sense of self-purpose.
Well, yeah, and the other thing
She
too.
wavers so much, though. It's hard, you know.
Well, and the other thing we have to remember too that the biggest counterweight to Dario's influence before was Jorah, who has now been sent
Jorah
away.
She found out betrayed her, exactly.
Yeah. And so Barristan is still around, but he doesn't seem to interfere much with her personal stuff.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting to see, and I enjoy this bit of a flip script, you know. And it shows that, you know, yes, women too can be swayed by the likes of somebody pretty.
We've got another comment. Is this is Sheriff Bullock with his real name there? Yeah, I thought so. He says, I still find it baffling that nobody in King's Landing cares who actually murdered Joffrey. I understand Cersei has an axe to grind and blames Tyrion, but no one else is concerned it might be someone else, someone who might murder Tommen. You know, I think that's a valid concern because I think that was a big part of Tyrion's complaint. You know, when he was accusing Tywin, was like, you know I didn't do it, and you're still pushing forward with this farce. Like, what the hell? Like, it's so personal. You would rather take out me than find out who really did it? Right. But I think the thing is, though, that probably the working theory in King's Landing is that a lot of people still do think Tyrion did it, and the people who don't think he did it think Sansa did it.
Right, and she's on the run. Yeah.
So that's I think Sansa is the person that, you know, if people think, you know, maybe Tyrion didn't do it, they think Sansa did because she fled. The poison was found in the necklace she was wearing. That necklace was found on Dantos, who was dead. There's a lot of stuff pointing to her.
If they saw the clothes she was wearing now.
Although she was not nearly as fabulous this episode. She was much plainer looking. She is not in her...
Well, because she was in public. You know, she had to she was being seen because she had to still look innocent and sweet.
Or she didn't look that innocent and sweet to me. She just looked more like, you know... She looked like what Maleficent would wear, like, to the grocery store.
Yes.
So if we stick to Marine, we see the dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down, because a queen of dragons is no queen if she doesn't have dragons.
So they were the relatively controllable ones that are super mean now, and nobody has seen Drogon 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
they weren't very happy. And they seemed bigger again already, even though it's only been a couple weeks.
The thing that I commented on this in our reaction show, but just Dario actually finishing that scene with the line of, like, a queen of dragons with no dragons is no queen at all. And I just wanted to be in Daenerys' shows and just saying, well, thanks. That's really helpful. Like, thanks for your feedback, dude. I mean, what the hell? Really? You just being a jerk for the hell of it now?
Captain Obvious.
Yeah. Why don't you give me a nice paper cut and then you could pour some lemon juice on it?
So it was pretty sad. Dany seemed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I expect her to seem less surprised if she knows she's not controlling them well. I guess she just didn't expect them to lash out like that.
Well, I think it's just like the last time when, you know, we don't know if there's been no visits in between, but when she left them, they seemed to be like crying, like, "Why are you leaving us? Come back!" But now it's more like they want to kill her. So that's an unsettling change.
What's a Khaleesi to do?
I don't know.
Let's jump up to Castle Black.
All right.
This is where real stuff happens.
Yeah. And even then, not really till the end, but
Yeah. Well.
We find John training Ollie, the boy who killed his ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's like all things considered, it's nice that John's not going to hold a grudge there.
Yeah.
I mean, it really would be entirely unreasonable for him to do so, but at the same time, you know, sometimes emotions are unreasonable.
Stranger things have happened.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we clearly Ollie is going to be, you know, an ongoing character, and you know they needed another one just because, you know, Gran and Pip are dead after the battle last season. So we needed a few more other brothers of the Night's Watch that we know their names. Because Ed is still around, we presume. Although I don't think we saw him alive after the battle, but we also didn't see him die. So presumably he's around somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like they would have made a big deal if he died. I don't think they would have had him die off screen.
Right, I agree. So he's still around. We got Sam, of course, Alistair, and Janos Slint, who are on, you know, Team Jerk. Although certainly after, I think both Thorne and John have increased mutual respect after the battle at the end of last season.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're not besties, but it's better than it was.
It was a little disappointing seeing Slint and them still buddy-buddied. Like, nobody mentioned, by the way, he was a coward who ran away.
Yeah, you know, I can't help but think that that's gonna come back into play at some point. Just, you know, it may well have been that, you know, it's kind of like, well, you say that he went and hid. He's going to have some other explanation for what he was doing, and he said, she said, so to speak. So what can you do, really? So they, you know, those who knew might well have just said, look, he knew what he did. Let's just leave it alone.
Yeah.
You know, they may have just concluded that there wasn't any productive gain in saying anything about it.
I mean, they've lost so many brothers as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Really, are we going to lose another?
Well, the White Walkers come banging on the wall.
Yeah.
You're going to want a more competent commander.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we had Sam and Gilly talking, and Sam reassuring her, you know, I'm going to go wherever you're going to go. And I found it interesting. It got me thinking that I always get the warm fuzzy feeling like, oh, you know, they're going to make it, you know, they're going to be a family. And it's really not rational to think that, because I think everybody accepted that John and Ygritte would never work. They're from two different worlds. She's north of the wall, he's south of the wall. So why still hold out hope for Sam and Gilly?
It's really not
positions.
Cute.
Well, I love, too, that Gilly is just so unromantic compared to Sam, of just this whole bit of, like, I told you, where you go, I go. Well, what if they send me away? Where you go, I go. You can't do that. They'll execute you. And he's just like, oh, but I'm trying to do a thing here. Come on, cut me some slack, Gilly. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know about those kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see where they go from here. There's a lot of unsettling stuff going on. For example, Stannis telling John, hey, you maybe want to go kick Bolton out of Winterfell?
Right.
He doesn't talk about legitimizing John, does he?
I don't think he doesn't quite get into it. Certainly, at least at this point, they may still push it harder in the show, but in the books it was much more explicit of, no, if you help me do this, I'm going to basically let you, I'm going to tell the Night's Watch that you're no longer one of them, and you're going to go be Jon Stark and retake Winterfell if you sign up and help me. So it was much more an explicit promise of like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, it was basically, I am king of the realm. This is the only way out of the Night's Watch without death. Mm-hmm. I can do this, and I can do it for a specific purpose like this, where a great house has no heir. Mm-hmm. So there is precedent. I can do this, and I can do this for you, and I can legitimize you even after your father has passed, which is up until most of what I know, that's how you get, if you're a bastard, the father of the house can legitimize you.
Well, it's like we saw with Roose and Ramsay.
Exactly. So, to me, that was a really big deal. And then for Jon to say, no, that's okay. I'm not going to have everything I've ever wanted. Yeah. It's so huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he could say that if it had been in such explicit terms.
Well, it's also true that that what we know of Stannis, based on what we know of Stannis, how does he react when people tell him no?
Not very good. Now, okay, wait, sorry. Melisandre asked if Jon was a virgin. He said no, and she says good.
Good. Plus, I don't want to ignore that just even before that exchange, she's just given him total creepy stare.
Yeah.
And
body creepy stare.
Yeah, well, and so I don't know about you guys. I don't want to jump on what you were going to say, Nutty. Mm-hmm. But my read of that exchange is basically, yeah, I'm going to get on that, and good that you're not a virgin because it'll probably be easier to convince you now.
That's one idea, and that is one idea that I thought about. Another idea I had is they like to burn people for mystical reasons, and virginity often has a lot to play in that. And Jon's parentage isn't really known, so and even if he is a Stark, the blood of the first men is in his veins, and he comes from a line of kings, and there's so many things. So, maybe him being a virgin means, okay, you're not going to end up on the pyre.
Well, but I think that would she be happy about not having him as an available option if that was what she was thinking?
I think so, because last season she looks at him across the pyre when they're burning the wildlings and the brothers, and she has a look of you're interesting. You could be useful to me. And I think she's choosing him as her ally and investing in him as a tool.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I agree, and I think the way that she does that is by sleeping with folks.
Quite possibly. It's a lot more explicit and a lot more about sex in the show, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, so I got the feeling that there might be multiple reasons, both strategic and personal, why she might want to jump Jon Snow's bod, and the fact that he is a virgin makes that it's like, oh, good, so I'm not going to have to get past that hurdle.
Yeah. And again, in the show, he's a lot older than he is in the books, so it's a lot less creepy.
Mm-hmm. So Mike says, I'm seeing the Sam and Gilly dynamic as a precursor to a possible alliance between the Watchmen and the Wildlings, as crazy as it sounds. And I don't think it does sound crazy at all, because that's kind of what Stannis had suggested too, right? Is what he was proposing to Mance is, I want you to bring your whole army down below, south of the wall to fight for me.
Yep.
Of course, Mance was not a fan of that idea. At the same time, I get where Mance is coming from, but they're still on the other side of the wall, Mance. What's your plan here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want them to die for you. I'd rather have them die when the White Walkers come. So I don't know. Mance is a weirdo.
It's interesting to me because Mance is not Mance from the books at all. And so And where they're going, I'm quite certain, is a completely different direction than the books. We are not going to have the story that we had in the books.
Yeah,
and
that
so
seems
this
clear.
is all brand new information, so it's interesting. I give him a lot of credit for not screaming or crying out while he burned.
Well, I think he was on the verge, and that's why John did him that favor.
Which is really awesome of John. In the books, he just he has a bunch of archers do it, so that it's not one person, so that Stannis can't just say, well, string this guy up for, whatever. It's, okay, a whole bunch of people did it. They did it on John's command. It was much better.
Yeah, I think it plays in the show, though, having him do it solo, because he's already in this position of knowing that, like, he's probably the one person in all of Castle Black who could get away with this and not have Stannis come after him for it.
And in the books, he was crying out. That's the other thing. So it's a whole different dynamic. Like I said, everything here is new. And I really like that, he fired the arrow and everyone looks at John and is like,
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, for the sake of people who haven't read the books, I think we don't want to get into the differences yet, because there might be elements that still come into play of what was going on there, but it's enough different even just with what they showed already. Yeah. It seems clear they're going a different direction.
Yeah.
I'm really wondering where do they go from here, since, like you said, the Wildlings are north of the wall. They have still have some prisoners here.
Well, the other thing is, too, that technically Thorne is still only, like, Lord Commander Pro Tem.
Yep. And let's not forget that while they're burning Mance, Tormund's standing right there. So there are wildlings within the walls that weren't kept in cells during all of this. So
I'm glad Tormund's still around. Although my impression was that Tormund was in a cell but got to come out for this purpose.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
As a wildling witness of what's going down here, because the whole thing was they were trying to say to Mance, here's your last chance, you can kneel and do this thing or we'll burn you. And so I think it's reasonable to have high-profile wildlings witness that whole deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think Tormund was probably in a cell otherwise.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, he didn't look...
He's not in shackles or anything.
Yeah, he wasn't seriously shackled or anything like that, so that was good.
Curious to see where they go if they make Jon go talk to the wildling leaders and try to rally them under Stannis, or if they just slough off into the trees.
Yeah, that's also a really tricky proposition for Jon and the Night's Watch, because there's this whole thing of shall not take part, and so on the one hand there's motivation. It's like, well, maybe it is probably a good idea to have the wildlings. Like the problem is, on the one hand, you don't want them to all stay up there and die and then all become whites that are now fighting you in that form. But you also, this is a lot of people. You don't really want to just unleash them on the sparsely populated land south of the wall.
With all their different ways.
Yeah.
Because they believe something is yours if you can take it.
Yeah.
So, like, they're thinking they're acting illegally, and that there's still people living in that area,
Sure, we'll take Winterfell.
Yeah, so it's a really tough spot to be in. Not to mention the fact that even if you do bring them south of the wall, doing it with the intent that they will now be the army for Stannis is kind of against that whole shall not take part thing.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's a tough spot.
Yep.
They've got some big decisions to make.
Yeah.
We'll
have...
oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sheriff Bullock bring us over into the Erie Lands with a comment.
Yes.
And this is something that I had mentioned when the Hound and Arya were walking away from the Bloody Gate. He says, so a man and a girl claiming to be Sandor Clegane and Arya Stark arrived at the Bloody Gate, announced themselves to a guard, and that news hasn't made its way to Baelish and Sansa yet. Lysa dead or not, if I was that guard, I'd want to follow up. And that's what I was saying when we had seen that episode of there's no way they would just be walking away from the gate.
See, my theory, and this is a little hand-wavy, But the way I kind of reconcile that in my head is that just straight up the guard did not believe them. Especially the way Arya laughed when heard that Lysa was dead, and I think that there's enough chaos going on because this was, of course, still when this whole thing of like the other Lords of the Vale, they're, did Lysa really commit suicide? What's really going on there? And I think that whole thing was still kind of in play, and this guard is thinking, who the hell are these jokers? What do they want? And then, oh, yeah, Arya Stark? Right, okay, thanks. Go away.
Yeah.
And
I guess you can never discount laziness and ineptitude.
Right, and so that's kind of how I reconciled it in my head, but it also does seem like something that Littlefinger would normally be on top of. But at the other hand, though, everybody thinks Arya is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has written her off a long time ago.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of like why would anyone believe that it's her?
And I wonder, just speculating here, since everyone thinks Arya is dead because nobody's heard from her, how many people are going around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Arya Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're a big house. You should feed me and clothe me," and trying to, pull a scam.
It's like the Anastasia thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although in this context, I'm not sure how appealing it would be. Just given the sort of people who would be looking for Arya, I'm not sure all of them would be.
But how much do common folk know about that stuff? Like they know the Starks are important. They know to stay away from the Lannisters. But this is the Vale. This is where her aunt is.
Yeah.
Surely they'll give me some food.
Mm-hmm. But so anyway, what we have with Littlefinger and Sansa is that they're dropping Robin off, to learn how to not whimper when he swings a sword. But it seems clear that that's all just kind of set up of saying, okay, we're ditching him because he's not going to be involved in our secret plans now. But we don't know. They're toying with us in this whole, like, well, where are we going? Oh, it's a secret. And because the thing is, like, they are out of book plot already. Like, those two characters are completely caught up with the book.
I have a hard time believing that Peter wants Robin away from him, but I think the reason that is because Sansa's not pretending to be his daughter anymore.
Well, it was niece in the show.
It was daughter in the book, though, wasn't it?
I think
I thought it was like bastard daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, but he did say niece
Stone,
in the show.
What it was, yeah.
But remember also, because in the show though, she tells the other Lords of the Vale who she is really. So I think in public she's still kind of pretending, but there's more people who really know.
Yeah, and do you really want to trust a kid if you're taking a road trip?
Well, you definitely don't. And I think also, honestly, Littlefinger is not overly concerned with the kid's well-being. It's more like, we're going to go on a trip, and we can't leave him home by himself, so let's just ditch him with one of these guys and move on.
Yeah, you guys can turn him into a man for me.
Yeah, so I think it's just that Littlefinger is just utterly uninterested in actually doing anything with Robin. He's got his other plans, and they can't have this kid tagging along. That's my take on that.
Okay.
But just where are they going?
See how he does without his mom to hide behind. If he actually becomes something. Maybe. But yeah, and where the hell are they going? Somewhere Cersei can't get to you.
Well, it's also interesting just because in the show, in the books, it's played up much more that he is frail and sickly and has fits.
Right.
They haven't really shown that in the show. He seems, pampered, but not necessarily sickly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so where are they going? We'll have to see. So I think our only characters that we haven't covered yet is Brienne and Pod, right?
Yep. Which is also off book.
Yeah. That whole, Brienne and Pod's storyline after leaving King's Landing has been completely different.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, especially after rewatching season 4 again, I love so much how that all came to a head with Arya and the Hound and Brienne and Pod. That was totally different from the books, but I loved it. I thought,
why?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it was so much better. I like it a lot better than the equivalent parts of the books.
I agree. They feel so much, and I know I said this last season, they feel so much to me like Dunk and Egg in their travels. Although this part of her trying to get him to leave, it's like Arya throwing rocks at Nymeria.
Right.
I don't know. I don't remember that with Dunk and Egg, but I'm interested to see how this goes. I don't think Pod's going to leave her.
No.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. The certainly not just based on her saying, "I'm not your mother."
Yeah.
And that whole bit, but I like, again, it's that whole dynamic of she keeps insisting that she's not a knight, and that means he's not a squire. But it becomes this thing where you're repeating it often enough. It's like, who are you trying to convince, really? It's like, you may not be officially a knight, but we know what's going on. We know you're the real deal here. And so, in every way but, on paper, she's a legit knight, in my opinion. She's got a quest and a magic sword and everything.
Damn straight.
But yeah, we'll just have to,
And of course,
let's see, because we have no idea where they're going now, because they're completely off book.
Yeah.
The carriage rolls by with Sansa. So
I know.
So close yet so far away. And now they're going away to who knows where. So
they
really don't have any plot anymore.
Just as far as plot, though, the only thing that I was a little confused by is, given that their plan before they ran into Arya was to look for Arya at the Eyrie, because they got the tip from Hot Pie, right? And also theoretically also looking for Sansa. So why would they change course to go north before they have actually gone all the way to the Eyrie?
As far as Hot Pie knew, they were going north to the Wall because she had a brother there. So Arya was going north, Sansa.
Right, but they're so close to the Eyrie. Why would they not just go all the way there before? Of course, I suppose even if they showed up, what are they going to do? They're going to find Lysa dead and like, any of you guys know if Sansa Stark's around?
Yeah, I think she's just so disillusioned at Arya not wanting her.
Yeah.
That she's like, well, that's a lost cause. And she really thought Arya was at the Eyrie. I don't think she had any inkling that Sansa would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think also the Brienne is just suffering from a crisis of confidence here too. I think after Arya refusing her help, there's got to be this feeling of like, what am I even doing? Why did I even think that I could do this at all? And
that's why she'll need Pod to be her squire to bolster her up.
And my only fear is that that's so fantasy tropey. Is Martin gonna screw us? Don't screw us on this one, Martin. Come on. Or actually, this is Benioff and Weiss now, right? This is not even Martin anymore.
Yeah.
So, come on, guys.
So I do want to mention that we did not see any of Arya.
That's true, although she's in the preview for next time.
Oh, I didn't watch the preview.
Yeah.
I fully expect to see her next week.
Yeah. Well, what we see in the preview, just the little preview clip, is we see that we will finally be visiting Dorne.
Yep.
I can't wait to see Dorne on the little opening credits. I can't wait to get a new, probably get the Sunspear is my guess.
I'm hoping.
So that'll be good. So it seems clear that what we get next time is we catch up with Arya, and we'll finally get to visit Dorne and meet, at least as far as I could tell, Prince Doran, and who is Oberyn's brother. And at least we see a couple of other women, although they're not named, so I'm not sure which ones they are.
And I'm hoping for a particular set that just always sounded so beautiful in the books.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have no doubt that the at least the plot line that involves Marcella, they've got to cover. So
yeah.
So it's been a while. We haven't seen Marcella since season 2.
If Tom has been aged up so much, I'm sorry, Chooch. If Tom has been aged up so much, how much older is Marcella going to be?
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, just as far as continuity, they kind of have to have her be, not much she's a few years older than Tommen, theoretically. But we'll have to see, because it's certainly true that in the books she's still depicted as still more or less a kid, like she's 11 or something like that, I think. Because they talk about her playing with one of the other kids that's there at the Sunspear.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
and it looked also like there was a clip of a dragon looking over a city, so we may see what Drogon's been up to.
So Mike says, I still think that Bran's getting the season off. We will see. I think, has that been confirmed? I think there were certainly rumors that he was just not going to be in the season at all.
I think it's been confirmed, but I do like Mike's speculation. If anything, he'll show up in the finale.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah. When Sheriff Bullock's saying he's also Dr. Julian Bashir from DS9.
Doran's brother.
Doran, yeah.
Oh, the actor? Okay, I didn't.
Alexander Siddig, who I wanted to play the role. It's
really?
One of the first times I would really like to see this actor play this role, and it actually worked. Just based on some of the speculations that were coming out, because I don't think that they were going to cast somebody as old as I had pictured in my head. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to cast somebody, Alexander Siddig would be quite good.
Yeah, Prince Doran is one of those characters from the books that I really never had a strong mental picture of.
Mm. I pictured him pretty old, mostly because he's infirmed in the goiter.
Yeah, he has gout, right?
Gout, that was it, not goiter, gout. It was something with a G that old people get.
Yeah, so he's not able to walk around very well in the books. We'll see.
Rich food in
yes.
Dorne. There we go. So I think we've pretty much recapped.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to have to run out early.
Well, I think we're just about done anyway, right?
Yeah, I was just going to ask
to just jump to the ratings.
That's what I was going to ask, if you had a rating.
Okay. So, all right, I'm going first. All right. Yeah. So it's not my favorite season opener. I think it's a pretty solid show. I feel like I wanted more Flash, but I know we didn't get the catch-up that we normally do at the end of last season. I'm trying to be fair. I'm going to give it 7.5 shits stuffed through a hole in a box out of 10. He didn't finish one of them.
There you go. How about you, Christiana?
7 out of 10 pathetic noises from a Lord of the Vale.
I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 spooning unsullied.
Ooh, I like your rating.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
So my first one was multi-purpose crate holes.
Like you're better than mine too.
It only just occurred to me that I think I promised that I was going to count deaths, which I didn't remember to do, but I think it's just one. It's just the Unsullied, isn't it? Did anybody else die?
No, Mance.
Mance, you're right. Okay, so 2 then.
I didn't enter the survey.
Yeah, neither did I. I totally forgot to set it up or do anything.
So we didn't have a survey. For shame, Chooch. For shame.
Yeah.
We all dropped the ball.
Completely.
Individually and as a group.
That is fantastic.
All right, well.
Well, yeah.
See, I remembered retroactively at least.
So let's stick with the unnamed deaths for next episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Then I'll actually create the survey. And yeah.
So go to specficmedia.com/BTW to find the survey by tomorrow-ish.
Yeah.
For a couple of days.
Yeah. And I don't want to leave off on a sad note. I just wanted to say real quick, obviously in our ID3 art and everything, we still have PG front and center. He's still in our hearts. Tomorrow would have been his birthday.
Yeah.
So
actually, didn't Google tell me it was today? Google's wrong.
I don't know.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know that my time hop, which shows like archived tweets and so on, popped up. I think yesterday with the one where I was saying just left a great birthday weekend with. Yeah.
So and one last. A rating from Sheriff Bullock, 7 out of 10 merciful arrows.
That's another good one. That's a good one.
I like that. And so, obviously, our cumulative score is 7.5.
Yeah.
Until Liv gives us hers.
Yeah.
I actually just thought of another rating that would have been fun. 7 out of 10 seconds of creepy Melisandre stare.
Ooh, yes. 7 out of 10, are you a virgin? Good.
One of the first things that had occurred to me that I decided not to use was marshmallows for the bonfire. That might be in bad taste. All right. We better
and on that note.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As we said, you'll be able to hit specficmedia.com/BTW to get info on the next episode. I'll put up the info for the survey so you can put in your guesses for how many name deaths will be on screen in the next episode. And we'll catch you next Wednesday.
And if anybody's got some cool memes, just tag me and I'll include it in the meme roundup. It goes out every Saturday or Sunday. I've got a couple lined up for next week already.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.